So hello and welcome everyone to our umpteenth installment of Jewish Wisdom for Coping with a Pandemic. We started in March as a way to give us tools and some level of community. And with a couple of breaks, we are still going. And this is a drop-in session, so some people come every week, some people come occasionally, but all of you who are here are really instrumental in supporting this community. We all have a place here, and we're all welcome. So as is our custom, we will begin with a short meditation to become present. So please get comfortable and close your eyes. And take in a deep breath through the nose and hold. And exhale through the mouth and hold. And again, inhale through the mouth and hold. And exhale through the mouth and hold. And as you go at your own pace of inhaling through the nose and holding, and exhaling through the mouth and holding. If thoughts should come into your head, just observe them and let them go. Like watching a car move past on the road. Now is not the time for solving problems. Right now, all you need to do is inhale through the nose and hold, and exhale through the mouth and hold. And on your next inhale, say to yourself, Shema, and on the exhale, listen. Shema, listen. In Shema, we're listening deeply, without judgment, without offering advice. In Shema, we are listening with an open heart. Shema, listen. And when you're ready, you may open your eyes. Well, friends, this is our second week working on the soul trade of honor. And to get started, I came across this wonderful quote today by Rabbi Sheffa Gold, which is as follows. She wrote, "Sometimes the gift of our uniqueness becomes a burden." This is in reference to this week's Torah portion where Joseph has dreams. He shares those dreams with his brothers and was taken to be kind of in a very arrogant way. He was only 17 at the time, and he was disliked. He was hated for that, and for the way that he was doted on by his father. But I'm curious, does this resonate with any of you for your personal experience, where have you sometimes felt that maybe your gifts have been a burden? Yeah, Joanne. You gotta unmute.
My sister always said, Mom always liked you best, and it was like, and she was jealous. I was the older sister, I'm prettier, but on the other hand, she's taller. My dad liked her best, So it was like, finally I said, well, Dad liked you best. Yeah, I know. So it can be used against you, just like Joseph's brothers hated him. I always found it interesting in the Parsha. I go to a Parsha class on Wednesday. that his name is Yosef, which means to add. I think it can also mean to take away, diminish. But in the beginning of the Parsha, the more he told them, they used the word, Yosef et Sinato, they hated him more. They used the same word as his name. So I thought that was interesting. That's it.
Thank you. Thank you, Joanne. And it made me think of the time when I was in graduate school. So I had a PhD from MIT in biology, and I used to like to go out to dance clubs and stuff. And I would go to a dance club, and like people would be like, "Oh, you go to MIT, you know, you're kind of weird and different. I don't want to have anything to do with you." And then I'd be at MIT, and it's like, "Oh, and I went out to this dance club," and people be like, "What? You go to dance clubs? You're kind of weird and different." So it's you know, it was what I liked to do and who I was, but for a while it, you know, it took me some time to kind of become sort of comfortable with who I was, and that's who I like to be. Other people have an experience. Gail.
Mine is very much more superficial, but you know, it certainly hit me deep because it's high school when you seem never to get over high school anyway. And I did have friends. I was in a small crowd of people who put together a philosophy club, and we were all very intellectual, and we did a lot of reading and discussing, and we were going to solve all the world's problems. But meanwhile, all the actual real girls were out there all dressed so nicely and with their hair and their makeup and their clothes and their jewelry. And I not only never fit in and never felt like part of the crowd of all the girls at high school, but I didn't even know how. I felt like, you know, I must have been out of the room when all that stuff was handed out. And so I just always felt a sense of not belonging because I couldn't just do all these girl things. I had to be in the philosophy club.
Thank you, Gail. Anyone else care to share? Did they resonate or not resonate with this? Yeah, Harry.
Well, I think all of us have probably shared this as well. Since we're all Jewish and since we're part of a minority, we're unique, and it's a burden because, you know, they sometimes hold being the chosen people, you know, from the Bible against you. And
yeah, I think many of us have had that. Not everyone in this community is Jewish, so not everyone here is, but many are. And for those who are not, they, you know, are experiencing sort of being a minority within a community in this context. Yeah, Carrie.
I have found throughout my life a couple of things that makes me different. And one, I'm very hard of hearing, and I have been since I was a kid. And I never saw that as something negative. But the other part of me, well, because of that, a lot of people thought I was a snob or something because I couldn't hear them. The other thing is I'm ultra sensitive to stimuli, whether it be the news or my friends or community. I'm just either hyper aware of stuff that's happening, or I can't filter a lot of stuff out. And I've mentioned this before. So I think that has been a burden because I'm always trying to filter so that I can manage or be okay, be healthy and stuff like that. And so and I often wonder if because I'm deaf, if I haven't trained myself to be more aware of people's body language, of what's going on, so that I can communicate. So that's my.
Thank you, Carrie. Thank you for sharing that. I listen with an open heart. Okay, so given that we, many of us, and I'm sure even those who haven't shared, can resonate, sometimes, again, the gift of our uniqueness becomes a burden, and sometimes, it may not feel like a gift, or may not seem like that at the time. Well, as we said last week, we, as is our custom, we always look at one of the four assumptions. And once again, for honor, it's this assumption that there's a divine spark in everyone, which is occluded by our baggage. And some of us shared memories from the teen years or early 20s when, teen years are not exactly a glory time for the divine spark. We perhaps have an elevated self-importance and also a lot of fragility that goes along with that. So in what way does having a divine spark relate to this idea of where we were here, which is, having the gift of our uniqueness feeling like a burden? I'm seeing some confused faces here. Did I ask a... I guess I'm wondering, is that helpful? Is it the fact that we're sort of feeling a little bit different and burdened by our difference or burdened by our gifts? Lainey, was that your hand, or were you checking the time?
I have a hand.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, that's actually comforting, because if we think that whatever gifts we have came from God and relates to the divine spark that's in us, that we were created in the image, it makes your uniqueness not a burden, but something to bring to the world. So I think that can turn it all around.
Yeah, beautiful. Randy, you look like you're percolating a little bit. Is there something you'd like to add here?
Well, I was just thinking about Joseph, and where he starts out, his brother put him down in the hole, and one brings him out and he gets sold as a slave, and then all of a sudden in the future he rises to a position of prominence, and the rest of his family is down in the hole. And he part of honor, I think, is seeing that spark in forgiving other people, saying, I'm not just an I'm part of something larger. I'm a we. I'm part of all human beings. There's something, I'm not just only me, and I'm part of this divine spark that, and it's actually a very nice thing. And I think, well, how could Joseph forgive his brothers? And when it talks about the story, he just sort of goes by himself and he's crying and upset, and he can't quite, he can't say, oh, well, it doesn't matter, but he says, I forgive you. You did mean to hurt me, but God meant it for good. That person that put the divine spark there, or there's something greater when you take everything as a whole that's good.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Randy. There's teachings a lot of teachings in Judaism and in the Talmud about, the unique value of every human life and also the uniqueness of every human life. And some people think that uniqueness comes from the divine, but even if we're not sure of the divinity, we can remember that, we have unique talents and we didn't ask for them, but they're there. And I like to think that when we have those talents, they're for a reason. So according to the story in the Torah, Joseph got these dreams from the divine, and he was sharing them. He didn't ask for these dreams. He didn't ask to be the one to kind of be put in charge. But lo and behold, there he was, and you're absolutely right, Randy. I mean, if Joseph doesn't get sold into Egypt, then who's going to be there to pave the way for the family and the famine, that comes along decades later? Yeah, Carol.
When I was a little girl, and even into adulthood, even now, I was extremely sensitive to noise, to sound. My uncle was one of the early people to make these wonderful animals from the big balloons. And I would sit there watching him clenched, scared that thing was going to pop. It was fascinating to watch, but I was like, And later I read a book about how some people just are very, very sensitive to sound, to other stimuli. And that nature did that for a reason, because those people were the sentinels. They could hear something coming before other people, danger coming before other people could. And I thought, okay, what seemed to me to be a curse, because I heard every creak in the old house. The house used to keep me awake because it was an old house. It creaked. I lived upstairs. And, but it's also a gift. And so what seemed like a curse to me has actually turned out, for other reasons, to be a gift. It was very difficult to be that way when I was teaching, because you're in a noisy classroom, you're trying to filter out a few voices, and I couldn't do it. I had a friend who could walk around. The kids were never aware she was doing it. She heard these individual conversations. I couldn't do it. But it was a gift in other ways.
Thank you, Carol. I think that opens the door for all of us. I mean, I'm thinking I haven't journaled in more than a few days, but it might be an interesting exercise to sort of think about some of these things, which sort of seem like a little bit of a burden. And what is the gift in them? It's like, wow, I can relate to that. I'm a little noise sensitive, but what does that give me? I mean, I heard, the cat stuck down in the basement when I was up in my bedroom, and I went and let him out. Nobody else heard him. He was a happy kitty. I mean, on the one hand, I couldn't sleep because he was yowling, but on the other hand, at least I could let him out of the garage, and he had a better night.
Is that like a mother smelling gas all the time? No one else smells the gas.
Yeah, it's a similar thing. We've talked about the spectrum of honor. I think this is a nice segue. May I have a volunteer to read this first slide, or this first bullet on the slide?
I'll do it, Greg.
Okay.
Find yourself a teacher, win yourself a friend, and be one who judges everyone by giving them the benefit of the doubt. For Kea vote.
Right, thank you. So here we have in this idea of honor, it's about honoring the divine spark in other people. It's treating people with reverence and respect. And here from Pierre Kea vote, here's a particular teaching. So what is this first one saying? What stands out for you, and how might that relate to your own life?
I think when I first heard this about giving people the benefit of the doubt, and that's a big part of Judaism, to give your fellow the benefit of the doubt. I think I relate to that as tend to be very judgmental and trying to be less so. And it's a good thing to keep in mind. And I think you'll win yourself more friends that way anyway.
Yeah, thank you. So you're connecting this sort of maybe giving people the benefit of the doubt as a way to achieve winning friends. Last week, we talked a lot about judging and how painful it can be to judge others, and how do we deal with people who are just saying things that we think are really off the wall. And so this week, I wanted to really bring us to sort of the positive side, and I think this is one of the important positive messages. What would that mean to give everyone the benefit of the doubt?
I think it has something to do with looking for the good in people
Mm.
and not focusing, not putting as much energy on how they're deficient or
Mm.
not meeting your expectations or something.
Yeah.
And also not always putting negative motivations, not assuming because somebody said something that hurt your feelings or somebody bumped into you at the supermarket that they were trying to knock you over.
Mm.
No, it's kind of like the thing I was saying about the road rage thing. Well, I think I said this last week, where if somebody cuts you off in traffic, it's not personal. They probably didn't even intend to do it. So don't ascribe malevolence to that act.
Yeah, thank you, Carol. I had something that happened. One of my professors on Sunday said something which really kind of bothered me. And I had a meeting with them later in the week, and I was all worked up about this. And I described all these, and I was sort of, as I was kind of ruminating on this, at the same time, I sort of stepped back and I could take a 10,000-foot view, and I'm like, wow, you're really worked up about this. And I'm sure they didn't like mean any of the things that, any of the words that you're sort of putting in their mouth. And it was helpful to be able to sort of step back and say, all right, how can I give them the benefit of the doubt so I don't kind of come into this meeting guns blazing. And we had like, you know, they helped me out. None of the things I was worried about even came remotely close to coming true. And it was helpful for me to kind of soften my own attitude to remember to give them the benefit of the doubt. Yeah, Harry.
I would call it leading with loving kindness.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
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 Garrett, would you read for us, since I haven't heard from you yet, would you mind reading for us the second bullet?
Yeah, of course. The Talmud says that we should always judge other people favorably. We must also judge ourselves favorably. Rabbi Nachman of Breslov.
Thank you. That's amazing. Let me ask the group. How many people tend to judge themselves more favorably than they judge other people? How many people tend to judge ourselves more harshly than we judge other people?
Sometimes, yeah. Oh, yeah.
What's Rav Nachman talking about? What do you mean we need to judge ourselves favorably? Who does that?
We should.
Larry.
I've been studying what forgiveness means as part of some other stuff that I'm doing. And one of the things about forgiveness is you're doing it for yourself, not for the other person or persons. So I am trying to understand it and realizing that I need to be kinder to myself in this whole process. So I think that's something that a lot of us have trouble with, is we get negative about our own feelings or beliefs. Instead, we should, forgive ourselves. We're human. We are not infallible. And I think I'm relating that to that quote that you put up.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. Self-forgiveness is a very important piece of the picture, and that's a great reminder that that's something that's important to do. Why are these quotes about judging others or judging yourselves favorably? Why is it paired with finding a teacher and making a friend?
What was the first part of that? Why do you care, did you say? Or
Why were they paired? Like this,
why were you
this
cared?
goal
Okay.
was like, you know, find yourself a teacher, win a friend, and judge others favorably, and then judge yourself favorably. Harry. I need to, don't forget to unmute.
Unmute.
Finding a teacher means that you're interested in learning
Mm,
and that you're open to learning and receiving versus giving or taking, I should say.
yeah.
And to find a friend is all about being open
Mm,
and hearing the other person or learning about the other person. So it's not about yourself.
mm.
It's about, you know, being open.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Yeah, if we're not willing to have a teacher, how are we ever going to change?
Yeah.
Okay, so that I'm going to bring us back to our quotes now, because let's take it another. Let's go into this. Oops, sorry about that. Let's go into this teaching bit a little bit more.
That's just what I was thinking of this.
Yes. So, could you read the quote from Ben Zoma?
Ben Zoma said, "Who is wise? He who learns from every person."
We may have looked at this one last year. I love Ben Zoma. He is like has get the best quotes in Pirkei Avot. So what is Ben Zoma teaching us here?
To me, it's like to be in tune with other people, and you know, you can learn things about yourself and also just about life and navigating different situations from other people, and not to close yourself off from that.
Yeah.
And if somebody comes into your life who seems really disruptive and really maybe really annoying and aggravating, if there can be a lesson there that can really help you with growth. So if you learn from everyone, you say, okay, this person is driving me nuts. I'd like to strangle her. Now, what is happening here? What can I learn from this person? Like what you said, Greg, about you, an interaction with your professor, with your teacher, that you had something to learn about yourself from that because you went inside yourself.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. You know, it was like, this was, you know, a piece of feedback, which I got. It was a good piece of feedback. I'm the one that spun it into this whole drama. And thankfully, I've learned enough that I kept the drama inside and didn't bring it outside, because that's when I tend to get into trouble with the relationship sometimes. So it was helpful. But yeah, and that's how, you know, I can build that relationship with the teacher, you know, because I can stay open. They can stay open to giving me feedback. You know, if I'm going to bite somebody's head off who tells me I need to improve on something in a polite and professional way, you know, I need to stay in relationship with that and work on my own. If I have an issue, then I need to fix the issue.
I think even if it's somebody you're never going to see again, never going to have much to do with, and the person really, for some reason, really annoys you, then think about why is this person driving me so crazy? What is it that I'm judging here? What is it that I need to look at in myself?
That is the Mussar journey. This becomes grist for the Mussar mill.
Oh, I'm learning.
What soul truth activated in me? What is going on here within me that's bringing me to this state? We have another lesson about learning. Someone else, please, to read the second bullet.
I'd like to, I'll read it.
Okay.
The one who learns from his fellow a single chapter or a single law or a single verse or a single saying or even one letter must treat the teacher with honor. Ooh.
Okay. So what's this saying? Someone else. How do you interpret this? And is this something you feel that you do routinely, or is this a stretch? Looks like I'm putting that. So you learn one thing from one person. Now, even a letter, you must treat that teacher with honor. Does that seem proportionate?
Yes.
What do you think, Lainey? You look like you're percolating on this one.
Are you talking to me,
Yeah.
Greg? Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I'm just really troubled right now what's going on in our country after the post-election. And I thought it was bad before the election, but I'm definitely very troubled right now with the kind of people that are just doing some really unkind things. And so I've really been trying to stretch to think, you know, that we're all the same and we're all humans and trying to make our way through this life and everything. And trying to kind of have some equanimity about it. But I really can't honor. I may learn something. I can kind of see that I could learn something from these folks, but honor is definitely not something I would put on somebody that I just totally disrespect. It has to do with morals and values, and I don't know if it makes sense, but I just can't go that extra mile for some with some folks.
Yeah, thank you. And am I pronouncing your name correctly?
No, it's Leanie.
Leanie. Okay, thank you so much. Leanie. Okay. Yeah, so for you, it feels like that's a bridge too far. You know, like, okay, I'm going to learn, but to really honor this person in the totality of kind of their moral stand on things and the totality of their actions, you know, that feels like too big an ask. Thank you. Yeah, Carrie.
I have a question. I'm looking up the definition of honor, and the second definition for the noun in this particular online dictionary is a source of credit or distinction, or a high respect as for worth, merit, or rank. And there's other ones that just see more. So what do we mean by honor in this, in that slide? Do we mean just to give them credit, or do we mean to is it the more pronounced version of honor, where a type of reverence?
Yeah, great question. What does it mean, and what might it mean? You know, what might it mean maybe in two cases where the person is kind of just neutral, you don't know a lot about them, and what might it mean in these more challenging cases where, yeah, this person like taught a class, but they post and you learn something, but they post some really reprehensible things on Facebook that they believe. And so how do we navigate that? I think I can put back up the definition of honor in the Mussar context from last week. which is about the ability to recognize the humanity in others and treat them with respect as dignity and even reverence. So last week we spent a lot of time on this, recognize the humanity in people who are, well, it might be a little bit, as my daughter would say, a little bit sketch. But these are like real issues. And, you know, is there a way that, you know, we could, you know, if someone has kind of a reprehensible moral stand, how do we treat them? You know, especially if we do learn something from them. You know, as someone, yeah, Harry.
Well, it's pretty straightforward if you accept that everyone has a divine spark, even if they're terrible or bad or whatever, that there's something human inside of them. And I guess that's honoring that divine spark. You may not agree with them, but we don't know what got them there. You know, what made them be that. I don't want to say the word different, but incorrigible or whatever, you know, or who doesn't agree with your thoughts or your values, but they still, you can argue, they're God's creation. So there's always that you can be positive about, or you can honor that, I should say.
Yeah, and I'd like to just push this a little bit more, but then how do I show up? You know, what do I say to them or not say to them? You know, because that's where the rubber hits the road. Like, yeah, in theory, yeah, okay. Yeah, they're created in the divine image, and maybe it's a little obscured by whatever upbringing they got. But, you know, what do I say? What do I do? And I wonder, when we read this, I'm supposed to honor these teachers. Does that mean I'm supposed to praise them? Does that mean I'm supposed to say you did a good job? Does that mean I'm supposed to give them a good review on Yelp? Do I have to do all of those things in order to honor them? Or does it mean I say thank you? No, I learned something from that. Does it mean I don't hate them and I'm not going to badmouth them?
Yeah, I like when they sometimes say, with all due respect.
Right.
I think you're a jerk. No, with all due respect.
Well, I think that you don't dishonor them by giving them a by bad mouthing them on social media or dissing them to your friends or associates, and you show up civilly. You're polite, you're respectful, you treat the person, you're not rude. And I think sometimes that's the best you can do, is just to be civil and to be kind. You know, you can't agree, you can't condone, but you don't have to be a jerk about it.
Thank you. I've gone to the wrong place here. Harry, and then I want to go on to our
well, you can use Michelle Obama's line, when they go low.
We go high.
Thank you. All right, so let's bring in Hanukkah here, because I found a great Hanukkah teaching, which I think is a little related to this. So Garrett, could you do some more reading for us, please?
Yeah, just going to unmute. Viewed from the Mussar perspective, then, Hanukkah can be understood as the struggle to rekindle our own Ner Tamid, our eternal flame, after it has been made impure or temporarily extinguished. In order to do so, we must first learn to recognize how vulnerable our Ner Tamid is to being obscured. How quickly anger, envy, or resentment creep into our vision such that our Ner Tamid becomes hidden.
Thank you. Thank you. All right, so this is from Rabbi Ira Stone. What is his point here? What is he teaching us? Does everybody know what he means by like your ner tamid? Your own internal flame? What does that mean?
That passion, your personal passion for life.
Personal passion for life? Absolutely. That
I'm
could be part of it.
asking, could that be it?
I think that's part of it. I think it's more than that as well. I mean, I think of it as our divine spark.
Right.
It's our best selves, what we call the divine spark. And, from our assumption, it sometimes get occluded by our baggage. I get angry and
Right.
envious. Oh, my teacher pissed me off. My narrative got obscured. I had all this resentment, all this baggage coming in. And it was trying to, get me off track. And as I said, it didn't, I didn't let it get to the outer world. So I didn't get off track. But what are some ways, and what I'd like you to start thinking about is, what are some of the ways that maybe, something has obscured your narrative? Again, if we're going to ask people to bring their journals today, but if you were to write something down, let's just take a minute and think about what is some way that, my light, my best self has kind of gotten obscured. Is it because of envy or resentment or insecurity, arrogance? What is it that's discomfort with our gifts? So Garrett, can you continue, please, and read the second paragraph?
Thus, the Mussar work of Hanukkah is to create for ourselves a ritual, a lighting of the lights that first recognizes when our light has gone out and how we can redouble our efforts through study, journaling, mitzvot, masayim tovim, good deeds, to rekindle our ner tamid with as pure an oil as we are capable of. Perhaps each night as we light the candles, we might recall or recite a ner tamid, or even encourage others among our families and friends to think about their own ner tamid and light it together with the candles.
Thank you. So I have a ritual, which I'd like us to try, and as we go into our breakout groups. And have everyone maybe just share a little something where they feel like their light has been dimmed. And, just something quick. But again, this is confidential. There's no recordings there. You won't need to share. It's just with your partner. And we want this to be a sacred listening. We're not there to give advice. If someone shares and then you say, thank you for sharing. And then the second person shares and the first one says, thank you for sharing. And then just kind of hold your hands out and say, may we rekindle each other's lights.
Nice.
Hanukkah is a holiday of sharing lights, right? And every night the beauty of like Shamash is when you share your light with someone else, there's just more light in the world. Your light doesn't diminish at all. So I'm going to split you into breakout rooms. And let's give this a try. Anyone have any questions before we go?
No.
All right, let's do it.
Yeah.
All right, so we'll have a couple of minutes. watching the live stream, I'm going to stop the record. I'm going to pause the. Hey there, welcome back. What are you holding up, Carrie? Is that a sound cube? Gotcha.
The speaker on my laptop is broken, so I have to use this anyway. So, but it's if I stick it up to my ear and next to my hearing aid, then I can hear much better. So.
That's good. All right, here comes everyone else. So that was a newly invented ritual I thought of today. How was it?
That's good.
Interesting. Interesting.
Yeah,
I like
oh,
God.
It's hard to think of something on the spot because over your life, there's such a long list of stuff.
mm.
You think of what's one thing?
Well, one thing, yeah, it's easy, and sometimes it can be really tempting to try to like figure the big stuff. It's like, oh, the time that I, did this really horrible thing, and those are so big, they can be hard to get our arms around, and I find that like the smaller I can get, the better. It's like, oh, my it's obscured, and I forget to say hi to someone when they walk in the room. How can I bring some light, make the most of that opportunity when my daughter walks in, teenager, she's locked in her room most of the time. She walks in the room, say hi. Brian, did you want to share something?
Greg, I
Yeah.
want to thank you. Oh, I am on.
Yeah.
I want to thank you for doing that last slide. I never thought of the candles at Hanukkah being like near Tamid. And I really love that symbolism, the eternal light. And I just want to thank you for that. That was just great.
Oh, you're welcome. Well, I certainly cannot take credit for that idea, but I'm so glad I was able to share it with you and that it had an impact. Garrett, do you have anything you want to share? Or you looked like you were going to say something earlier. I don't mean to put you on the spot.
No, I was just nodding in my agreement by what Lenny was saying. But the one thing that's been stuck in my mind for a little bit during this session, I hope I can take the time to go back to it, is having been an individual studying Mussar, just myself and a book, it's been interesting going through the experience of hearing it from other people and also hearing directly from you, because even thinking about honor, I have had some process of looking at or thinking about honor myself, but haven't really extended it to beyond looking at other people. So the whole concept of extending honor to self has been kind of a new concept, which has been really interesting to have a space to explore that with others. Kind of sounds like find yourself a teacher. So.
Well, I'm so glad you've joined us, and thank you for sharing that.
Well, 2 seconds, this is apropos of nothing, but I was singing before Mussar was walking around singing, "This little light of mine, I'm going to let it shine." Coincidence much?
Yes. In the Talmud, there are many arguments between Rabbi Hillel and Rabbi Shammai, and one of their arguments was around Hanukkah candles. Or do you start with 8 candles and go to 7 to 6 to 5, or do you start with 1 candle and add more? And Shammai thought you should start with 8 and go down, and Hillel thought you should start 1 and add more. And, Hillel always wins these, and the argument was that we should always bring more light into the world. And so that is really, I think, such a wonderful opportunity for all of us in a time which has been pretty darn dark, and at the same time, we have an opportunity to bring some light to ourselves and to bring some light to other people. And one of the Hanukkah traditions is you put your menorah in the window, or you put it somewhere where the light can shine out into the world, so people can see that light, and that light can come out into the world. And,
my son and I lit candles tonight over Zoom. And then we turned out all the lights in the kitchen where they were, and they were in the window. We went into another room where there was lights so we could keep talking to each other, but just to let the light shine out after we lit them together.
That is wonderful. Okay. Any last comments before our closing meditation? Okay, so once again, please close your eyes. And taking a deep breath through the nose and hold. And exhale through the mouth and hold. Now focus on the light that's filtering through your eyelids. This is your ner tamid, the divine spark. And as you take in your next breath, think of it as like a little coal in a fireplace that you're blowing on, and see that light grow a little bit brighter and a little bit stronger. And as you continue to breathe and the light gets stronger, imagine sharing that light with others across time and space in our Zoom community. Imagine we're in a room together, sitting in a circle. And as we continue to breathe, the lights get brighter and brighter. And my light is making your light stronger, and your light is making someone else's light stronger, and their light is making my light stronger. Let's all say thank you for being together in community, for the opportunity to share our lights.
Cool. Sharing.
When you're ready, you may open your eyes. Well, thank you once again for being here. I am going to